Okay, so obviously being a creative entrepreneur, as you said I should call you, what is your
Mhm.
process? Talk to me about your process for writing and developing a new play, because obviously for a lot of people in the industry, people have different methods to their madness. So where do you
Mm.
draw your inspiration from?
Mm. I definitely draw my inspiration from personal experiences. I think like we all go through so many things, the good, the bad, the ugly. So I definitely draw my inspiration from personal experiences. But apart from that, I also draw my inspiration from society, from communities, from the world, from people. I think people are so fascinating. I'm quite introverted. And I think for me, I find that as an asset because I love observing. I love observing groups. I love observing people because I find people very fascinating. I think we're very fascinating people. Part of the reason why I would say, apart from being a writer, I'm also an actor is because of my fascination with people. And I think that's where I draw my inspiration from. I think people have a lot of stories to tell. We all have a story. I think there are just so many things to tell stories about.
No, 100%. I definitely hear that. I think
Yeah.
everyone's definitely, especially like, I like how you said everyone's got like their own story to tell. Like people come from different backgrounds. From another person, it can be totally different. So the experience is totally different. And yeah, and it leads me on to like my second question, segues nicely, where you come from Africa, Zimbabwe, and
Mm,
the arts are not, how can I say, the arts are not often as appreciated and
mm.
supported and as compared to like other parts in the world, especially in the Western world. So what made you motivated to pursue a career in the arts?
I would say I like how it all started, I would actually say, is in high school. I used to enjoy making people laugh. That's really how it started. And then obviously, I think it gets a lot deeper than that, where you realize that these art forms are ways in which you can really help to empower people or to help heal the world. I see the arts as like an opportunity to be part of the world's solutions to issues. So I think, I don't know, that passion grows when you see the impact. If someone comes to you and says, "Oh, I read your book or I read your story and it's really impacted me in such a positive way," or someone who was sad is like laughing because they saw a piece of like theater or they saw a piece of art that impacted them. So I think really seeing that and seeing the impact that art has on people, I think for me, that's really what like built up my passion. And despite obviously the challenges that come with the industry, I think it's a bigger why. It's a bigger when you see the impact of the work that you would have created or you realize that, oh, this is something that the world needs. So I think that's what really, to be honest, keeps me going personally.
So like filling in a hole. Is that the right term?
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely like filling in that hole and just feeling responsible in a way. I think we all have a purpose in life. And I think for me, part of what my purpose is really being in the arts. I believe we've all been trialed and tested, but I think when you find there's something Tyler Perry said when he said, there comes a time where the dream is the one that starts calling you. And I feel when you start feeling that way about something, it doesn't have to be the arts, it can be something else deep down in your heart that I think this is part of my life's purpose. It's bigger than me.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I definitely hear that. And I agree. And I agree. And I just actually wanted to like touch up on something that you mentioned earlier about giving
Mm,
like people a voice. You have
yeah.
a company called Unshaded Arts. And
Mm,
there's a theater company. And
yeah.
on the description, I'm actually on your company about so that I do not misquote what is written
Huh, okay.
here. It's a theater company dedicated to producing new plays that shine a light on universal stories driven by marginalized voices.
Mm,
Yeah. And that's
mm,
exactly what you said at the beginning, where you said everyone comes from different places, everyone's got their own story to tell.
mm,
So
mm,
that's why you went into this industry so that and
yeah.
created this company so that everyone's voice is heard on a more louder platform, because a lot of people out there are creative, a lot of people are talented, but they don't have the platform to show how good they are because of circumstances. So you creating this company is like the reason why you're doing what you're doing. Am I right?
Exactly. Exactly. That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. And I think that's actually good for people, because from like Africa, it's very difficult for people to get like an opportunity because of certain factors and things. But I think it's a good like initiative to have something like this, because a lot of people can get that exposure that they desperately need.
Of course. Definitely. And I think, and I think as Unshaded was still, I would say was still quite small, but I think for me, we're an international company. Of course, we've started it in the UK, but for me, the dream would be to take some work like around the world and stage it in different countries. And I think for me, the reason for that is I feel like you said, not everyone gets that opportunity. And I think stories are so important. Stories help us to see other people and they connect us. Stories connect us. You don't have to necessarily understand where someone else is coming from, but just seeing something else being put on, I feel like is a way to also educate other people, but also to create that sense of empathy with each other as well, and that sense of unity. Because the way I see it is we are all different, but we're all one in some sort of way. We all cry, we all feel pain, we all feel grief, we all feel joy. So there is that sort of commonness of being human. And I think it's just nice. It's nice to see different work from around the world.
Yeah, 100%. And you also get a different perspective and a different viewpoint.
Of course.
So different. And that's the beauty of life, because when you find yourself like constantly like in one place, you don't see the other side. But when you hear it, and then you go out that box and you see, oh wow, this is what's going on. Yeah, and now you've got a different opinion, a different perspective.
Yeah.
That same mind, you don't have that same mindset, I guess.
Of course.
And that's the beauty of life, because I feel like a lot of people, obviously some people just grow up like in one place, so they don't get to see all the other perspectives.
Yeah.
Going on. But now they leave that shell, that bubble, and then they go and experience, oh, there's someone who actually experiences pain, someone who cries, someone who experiences hardship. You get like an open view.
Of course. Yeah, exactly.
Get a greater perspective on life and the things around you. So I 100% with you on that. I 100% with you. And just like even diving deeper, obviously you produce and you write a lot of plays, and how do you ensure that the stories that you tell and you put on resonate with a wider audience, but at the same time staying true to like what you aim to highlight?
That's a very good question. I would say everything in life is a gamble. Everything is a risk. I think for me, the things that I write, I do try to ensure that they are also reflective of my values, and whilst also not judging my characters as well. I would say there's something Owen McManus said. He said, with creative freedom comes creative responsibility. So I think as a creative, we are responsible in shaping the world. You know what I mean? I think we are responsible in the things that we create and the things that we write. So I would say a part of that, like observing people and observing how they are, is I try not to, in as much as, yes, maybe I might say, okay, I want to write a play that's driven by mental health or driven by something that I've seen, right? Of course, the main themes will probably be very much things that I would have decided to focus on, that I've made a choice on. But like when it comes to the different characters and how they speak and their voices, I would say that's where you really need to have a voice and an ear that doesn't judge the character. I think that's how you write more. I think that's how you write more. You write in a way that the work becomes relatable, because it's not like you're going to agree with every single character in life. But sometimes I find that, and there's something that a friend of mine once said to me is when I was stuck, actually, when there's a piece of work I was writing and I was stuck, I didn't know where the story was going. And he said to me, he was like, let the story write itself. And I think for me, what I interpreted from what he said was like, allow your characters to say what they need to say. Don't try and censor them to like cater to your own little box. So I think I do learn a lot from the things that I write. Yes, like the work that I write is definitely influenced by the things that I'm passionate about. But at the end of the day, I do allow my characters freedom to exercise and to speak. And I feel like those are the characters we see in the world. You know what I mean? We may not agree with those characters. We may not agree with certain people, but we then also get to see how they see the world. Yeah. I hope that answers the question.
It does. Like, because there's also something on it even that you touched upon, like when you get stuck. You know, a lot of people, I don't know, people are different. So
yeah,
someone gets stuck, like you're writing a piece or something and you just get stuck. And you just don't know what to do next, like where the story is going. But how do you deal? Is that a constant thing that you always have to deal with? Or it's just like once in a while, like you're writing something like, oh, I'm stuck. So what am I going to do now? Or do you take yourself out of that writing process and says, I'm going to do something else to take my mind off that so that I can just distract myself, then try find a way how I can come back and finish
this? I think, you know what? Honestly, every writer is different. And I think it all depends on, there are times you have the freedom to leave the work and say you go back to it. Times when you will get times where you're actually commissioned to do a piece of work. So there's no time. There's no time to, and I think it's tough. It is hard. I think the more you write, the more times you get commissioned to do work, then now it's you don't really get that privilege of going away from the work. But a lot of writers will probably tell you, oh, I have a million open tabs. I have that. I'm not really sure if that's the best way to handle things, but because I'm one of those writers that are like, I'll start a piece of work and then I'll do something else, but I'm definitely trying to ensure that I finish. Like now I'll say to myself, okay, this is our deadline. Even if I don't have a deadline from anyone, I say, this is my deadline and we are going to write it from beginning to end, even if it's the crappiest thing I've ever written. Because I think it's good to finish a piece of work. I think I would say your hardest thing is your first draft, because there's so many voices in your head that are telling you, oh, whatever. But I think force yourself to finish. Just finish it, because the great thing is you can now work on something that's finished. So I would say even in the moments that you feel like, oh, I feel like I don't really, like I'm a bit, go outside in nature, go watch a piece of theater, go watch a film. I can guarantee that when you go away for a little bit and it relieves that pressure. And again, I think sometimes it's about going back to your characters and what they believe in. Because I think sometimes, like I was saying before, is you want that character maybe to be a bit like you. But like your characters are not you. Your characters are supposed to represent society and the world. Do you know what I mean? They're supposed to, I think like sometimes when we're stuck, especially I guess when writing work or when writing stories, is maybe we're trying to manipulate a story to be something that it's not, which is, again, goes back to what my friend said, is let the story write itself. So I think sometimes you then have to go back to your characters. Who are they as people? What do they believe in? What will they do? What will they not do? What are their values? And I think sometimes that helps, because sometimes it's more of a structural problem. Sometimes it's more of an inspirational problem. But I think when you go away, or it just depends. I think it depends on what type of work you're writing. But I find being out in nature, as a writer, you need to find things that just help you to calm down and just not to take life too seriously. And I think for me, when I'm out in nature, I'm often like, if you check my Instagram and the things that I post, it's either I'm having a burger, I'm eating, or I'm looking out at water because water inspires me, or I'm out in the greenery. I'm around trees. I've gone for a walk. I've gone for a run. Things that take you outside of yourself, allowing yourself to play. Because as human beings as well, we don't give ourselves time to play, which is an essential. Exactly.
Especially nowadays with obviously the emergence and popularization of like social media, people are always constantly like, wow, they'll see something on somewhere. I need to be constantly doing this at this time. I can't do myself a break. And it's good to have such mentality, but at the same time, you have to realize people are made differently, and some people, there's a time for everything.
Of course.
What that guy is doing, or putting all the graft in, you don't realize that maybe sometimes he's probably resting as well for a day or so. Then he gets back. And when you continuously work yourself, you're going to find a situation where you run yourself to the ground and you're just fatigued and exhausted. So I think sometimes it's like genuinely important just to take a breather, just relax. And then and by doing that, sometimes, like you're saying, you have a different perspective, a different mindset, and like, okay, cool.
Of course.
What is my character about? Exactly. What is my character about? What are their values? So on and so forth.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely. No, that makes a lot of sense. I like how you said you're inspired by water. I've never heard that before.
I think I have a million thoughts, and it's something like I feel like I really personally actually want to go get tested for ADHD. But I think when you have a million, because I have a million thoughts going on in my mind. You know what I mean? Like a million. So I feel like for me, when I'm around, water has that calming effect. It's like that thing that makes my brain calm. And then I can hear myself think. And I think sometimes you need that. So yeah, for other people, it's painting as well. I love to paint. So I think I do. But not like anything like, I don't know, not anything like that's like I'm going to sell to any artistic shops or anything. But I do have paint. I have paint brushes. I have little canvases. And I will just paint. And I find that quite therapeutic. Another thing I oddly find therapeutic is ironing. I know that's so weird, but I guess that's almost like coloring in a way. I have a friend, she, to calm her mind, she like colors and stuff like that. So it's like you said, you need to find playtime. You know what I mean? I don't know why as adults we've stopped playing, because it's actually when you're playing that you discover so many things. Have you seen children when they play? So yeah.
Exactly. You're right. I like that, because even as kids, you see when they're playing, their mind is all over the place, but they're like thinking about the weirdest things. And I actually understand. I get you. Like even sometimes for me, for example, I take breaks sometimes if I'm not running or on my laptop watching something distract me. Sometimes I'm like, you know what, cool, I'm stuck. Let me go at least play a video game. Let me go play FIFA. Whilst I'm playing FIFA, I think about the wildest idea that I've never thought about whilst what I was doing. And I'm like, okay, cool. I immediately put whatever I'm doing down and I go and I start drafting this piece of work that I'm doing. And I find that it actually helps the time. Just sitting and
I love that. That's so good.
So it's great. I guess, and that makes sense because, like I said, people have different methods to their own madness. Like ironing, like you said ironing is similar to coloring. That's wow. Like I
like in a way.
I'm trying to piece the two together, but I just want. Okay, I don't know. Maybe it's just I don't know. I really don't know.
Dead. Oh my gosh.
I really don't know. But yeah, like even just going back to, like you said, writing and finishing some things. Obviously, you released like your first short film, Daughter of the Soil. This short film, correct me if I'm wrong, aired last year in December.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yeah.
2023. It's
Yeah.
2023. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a film mainly about a sense of belonging and
Yes.
identity of young African women.
Yeah.
Won multiple awards locally
Mm.
and
Yeah.
internationally.
Yeah.
And someone, coming from where you come from, like, how does it feel seeing like your work being acknowledged? Yeah. Seeing your work coming into fruition, how does it feel like seeing your work out there for people to see this is the vision behind all of this? This is why I do this. It's because of things. Like, how does it feel knowing that your work is out there in the world and someone has seen it and saying, wow,
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it didn't rise it. But I got the privilege to co-produce and to exec. I was the exec producer on it, and I got to be in it a little bit. I feel like I did enjoy working with other Africans. That was really nice because I feel like, obviously, because I'm based in the UK, that opportunity isn't always there to work with other African artists. So I think for me, what was really special about that project was being able to bring an African story to life, but also work with other talented African creatives. So I think like the awards that we got was so special because it felt like this was not just my own efforts. It was like all of us together creating this body of work that we can look back and say, wow, we're proud of this. And I think for me, that's what it's about, is like being able to work together and to create something that we can say we're proud of, and something that I hope that when young girls or young women watch it, they're like, oh, I can see myself there, because we were very intentional about the casting, the women that were in it, their body sizes, their body shapes, their skin. And my hope is that, yeah, they can see themselves in that work, because that's something that I'm passionate about, is representation. Is for me what got me excited about acting in the first place was when I was really young and I watched What's Love Got to Do with It. And that's where my love for like Angela Bassett, like that's where for me the seed was planted of, oh my gosh. And it's not like when I was that young, I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. But I think just seeing a Black woman doing an amazing job, it did something to me at that age. So I think for me, that's the pride, really. That's the pride that I have about the film winning so many awards, is that other people in other countries got to see it. That's which I love.
Exactly. Honestly, I think you actually said everything that I wanted to say and I wanted to ask. Like, seriously, even
sorry, I talk a lot.
no, but it is good because it shows, like, one thing I always say is, at least someone who's talking about something, you can at least see that they are passionate about what they're talking about. So if you're talking about something that you love, people go into depth, and it's actually really, it's good to see. It's good to hear you're so passionate about your work. And I think that's why, like, your work continues to do well, continues to inspire, and continues to, what can I say, for lack of a better term, to motivate a lot of people, because the work that you put in and the results that it gets and the impact and that it has, you can see that this person has worked day in, day out to show that this is what I'm really about. Yeah. And yeah, that film, like, for me, I really like the aesthetic, like the visual, even just what you're talking about, like representation. A lot of like films that are produced outside the, like, in the West, sometimes the way they represent like Africa and people from African communities, it doesn't really do justice to like what Africa is really about, which kind of annoys me. And
yes,
it really annoys me. But the way that you guys did it just shows this is what the essence of Africa is, like, even like the different body types and the different characters and so on and so forth. People come from different places. So that's one thing I really did like about it. It just looked so clean, so natural, and something that we can say that this is purely African experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very good. Like, you guys actually did that. Hopefully, we see more stuff like that in the future. I don't know, maybe.
Definitely, you will.
No, 100% and 100%. And also, I do hear that you do have another short film coming up called Anne.
Oh, Anne.
Yes.
Funny enough, like Anne was shot a while ago, but like literally 2 years ago. But then like now I think the producer, because with the thing with short films, it's a bit different to like feature films and stuff where you want your short film to do the rounds in like different small other cinema spaces or like festivals and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's a bit different. That's how the marketing happens sometimes with short films. Yeah, Anne is coming out like this year, but we shot it like it was shot like 2 years ago. But I can't wait till you guys see it. I
Uh,
can't wait.
I did. I like the small like snippets. It was actually pretty funny.
Yeah. So I hope you like it. It's definitely different. It's definitely different, but I'm really glad I got to be part of that project.
Yeah, 100%. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Mhm.
And then for me, like the last question, like I would like to ask you is obviously, like I mentioned before, and you mentioned before, coming from a place where, art is not, the arts industry is not as appreciated and supported. What advice would you now give to someone who wants to pursue a career like in the industry? But what would you say to them? And also another question to follow up to that. What piece of advice did you receive early on in your career that has stuck with you until now?
Mm. Hmm. Those are very deep questions. That's a very deep question. I think that's like part of the reason why I feel so connected, obviously, like apart from Zimbabwe being my birth country and everything, and I know I'm based here in London. A part of my heart is definitely still connected back home. And I would say is part of the reason that is because I remember when I was straight out of high school and I'm like, I've got this dream in my heart and I'm like, how am I gonna, I don't necessarily have a blueprint of how to make that dream happen. You know what I mean? I think there's been a lot of trial and error and there still is because yes, there are artists out there, but it's still difficult. It's still hard. But I think one thing I would say is there are so many, in as much as, yes, the arts aren't as appreciated, there are people who are doing stuff, especially even in Zim. There's Theatre Academy that offers like acting classes and acting courses. I'm sure Reps is still offering some classes as well. And I would say also use stuff online. There's so much material online as well. You know what I mean? And I think there's so many performers and actors who've not necessarily had to gone to drama school to make their dream happen. So I think one thing I would say is be open to how your dream is going to happen. Be open to how you are going to push those. Look out for opportunities because there are always people who are willing to help. And as much as, yes, there are people who are quite selfish out there because the industry, like any industry, is full of the good and the bad. But I would say the most important thing is to map out where you want to be. Map out where you want to be and try and figure out how to get there through the things that are within your reach. Is it someone who can connect you to networks abroad or networks locally? Or is there a class you can attend? Always find a way to use what you have to get to where you need to be. And that might, like, something people might not know is like, when I first auditioned for drama school, when I tried to get into drama school, this was a couple of years ago, I didn't get in. And I think it's important to also mention those moments when you didn't get what you wanted. And for about 3 years, I studied business. I pursued business because I didn't get into the school and I was disappointed and all of that stuff. So I took a detour in a way. But much like what Tyler Perry says is sometimes the dream calls you again. And like during those 3 years, there were opportunities to do a drama class at a business school or another opportunity came for me to apply for drama school again. Like, this is when I say always be open to it, because now I'm like, in as much as, yes, the business degree was like a detour, as it were, that actually has helped me a lot within the creative industry now. So I think it's just be open to how your dream is going to happen and be flexible with what could happen and how it can come to pass. But don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Even when you get discouraged, don't give up. There's always a way. And if you feel called to something, God is always going to help you to make that calling come to pass. And I think that's what you need to rest and believe in. I hope I've answered the question, really.
No, you have. No, you have definitely
Yeah.
answered the question. I think like the last point is just don't give up. Just
Yeah.
give up. Continue to push. Continue to put yourself out there. And you just never know what could happen. I think a lot of people these days, they're quite, I wouldn't say shy, but like, I guess I'll say shy because they'll say, I want to put myself out there, but at the same time, I'm afraid like what X and Y is going to think or say, going to think it's embarrassing or cringe, like the words that they use. But I guess if you have that mentality, then you're going to be stuck there. You're not going to really evolve.
Of course.
Get to where you want to get. So I think that's, you make a very good point. Just put yourself out there. And sometimes things can happen. The unexpected things can happen. Like you said about the business school thing, an opportunity came up. You took it, you grabbed it both hands, and imagine if you didn't take that detour.
Yeah.
Life could have turned out so differently.
Yeah.
No, 100%.
But also, if I can just also say is don't be afraid to make work, like to create work if you're a writer and stuff. I think for me, for a long time, because I started off as an actor, I did feel like I'm also a writer, but because I'd never really written anything, it took me so long to even start to write something. And the honest truth is you're not going to be like the best writer when you start, but you have to start. So I think it's like really pushing yourself. And I think being okay with people not understanding your work. I think that's been the most freeing thing for me. I don't care. If I post something and it gets one, I don't care. I think it needs to be, I think we live in a world where we really do crave, we want people to like us, but I think that sometimes can be the biggest hindrance is be okay with being terrible at something. You know what I mean? That's like how you actually learn. So it's put yourself out there. It's okay. I had this artist who says, she was like, when she's creating, what's her name? Inspired. So I really encourage creatives to follow her. She's great. So on Instagram, she's called Inspired to Write. I think that's her. But she was like, when she first started off, she literally created this other account and she blocked all her loved ones from like seeing her art. Like her art was just for like strangers. So I'm like, if you have to do that, do whatever it takes to make your dream happen, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. And exactly. I think, and you're right. I like what you said about sometimes people don't understand at that time, but as all human beings, years later, they'll come
exactly.
Back to they're like, oh, wow.
I
was so wrong. And it happens most of that. I think.
Yeah, it does.
Even sometimes, like for myself, like when I release something, like I've gotten to this point, like where I can be talking about something now. And someone would say, why are you talking about this? What's related to that? But then later on, people always come back to the circle back. But you know what? You actually had a point there. And, but by that time, they said that it's already too late because you're now past that. You're like saying, but this, you see, this is what I was telling you guys about. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Now, it's now you guys want to listen. And it happens, and that it happens in movies, it happens a lot in music as well. So
exactly.
It happens.
Yeah.
And this has been amazing, man. I'm really
good. Oh my gosh. This was so nice.
It's hard. You finally done it.
I know I finally did it and it was so nice.
It's not that bad.
You'll be the first and only.
Oh man, this is an honor, man. Yeah, people, this is where we end off, man. This has been such a wonderful interview with the one and only Chiedza. Obviously, I'm going to link all her titles and descriptions. Everything's going to be in the description, all her works. You find that in the description. I'm also going to tag her as well so that you can see the things that she's doing and some of the future work that she is doing. Obviously, we have discussed that there is a short film that is coming out soon. So, yeah, make sure you're on that. You check that out. And yeah, Chiedza, thank you so much for...
Thank you so much, Simba.
I really do appreciate this. Continue to inspire, to influence, and to,